Hello, the internet. My name is Wesley, and this is the Look Mum No Computer 1222 Performance Oscillator, a synthesizer module, in this case in the Kosmo format, but it comes in Eurorack as well. But if you're familiar with the module, you might be seeing that this is a highly modified version of that. Turns out my Kosmo rack doesn't quite fit the dimensions, so I had to roll up my sleeves and DIY a little. I do like this module, even if I did make some changes to it. This is what I think about the Look Mum No Computer Oscillator. By the way, I should disclose I'm a massive Look Mum No Computer fan, but I'm still going to try to be as objective as possible. So first off, I've taken all the patch points and put them into columns for the left oscillator and the right oscillator. And they do all the things that you would expect. So here's your triangle wave. I gotta say that square wave doesn't look super square on the scope, but you know, sounds close enough. You got pulse width modulation. Next, we're gonna talk about the things that I've added. So here's the sub oscillator. Both of them have that, and it can be 2 octaves down, a blend, or it can be 1 octave down. Although when you're doing both, they get pretty quiet. So it kind of wants to be at one extreme or the other. Both oscillators have a sync input. Since I really only need one out of the 2 oscillators to be capable of receiving a sync signal, I'd replace one of the sync inputs with a pink noise output. And so that can be mixed in through a mixer because a little bit of noise is kind of nice. So next you've got pulse width modulation and FM inputs. Of course, you've got the volt per octave inputs that I've plugged into my little MIDI to CV converter. So yeah, let's start making some noise with it, see how it sounds. So right now I've got a nice basic mellow filter with a little bit of resonance that kills the bass. An octave control comes in real handy. So that pink noise can get pretty whistly in a filter like that, but I think if we plug it into something a little dirtier, that might change what it sounds like. Let's give it a shot. Rotary selector that has the octave built in. I think that's extremely handy, and I feel like all oscillators should have that. In fact, I've replicated that part of the circuit and DIY'd it into some of my other oscillators because I like it so much. So Look Mum No Computer, you nailed it on that. Next up, having these little holes in the panel here where the trim pots can be accessed, I think is also a very good idea. I think it might be worthwhile having some way to cover them up a little bit so that dust doesn't get in there, but just not having to de-rack the unit to trim things is really important, because even small changes in the power environment or jostling it around can cause it to need to be retrimmed. So sometimes when you get something trimmed up and then you rack it up, it needs to be adjusted again, which is super frustrating. So I love that you can just do that without having to pull the module out. Things that I don't like, this thing has a full-on Arduino Mini or whatever, Arduino Nano or something in there. And that's just a very inefficient usage of the power and the compute that's available from a microcontroller to accomplish this. The reason why this is in a vise and instead of in my main rack is that the Arduinos draw enough current that it was interfering. I have 2 power supplies in this rack, and it was kind of interfering with things and making it so that the voltage was sagging, and it was causing all of the oscillators to kind of fall out of tune really easily because I was kind of nearing the limit of what the power supplies could handle. And just having a full-on Arduino for every oscillator, it just kind of uses up too much power in my opinion. I don't know the exact amperage that's being pulled, but just through trial and error, I found that by removing this unit from my rack, that everything became more stable and more reliable. If your rack has far fewer modules, or you've got a really, really beefy power supply or something, then maybe you won't have that issue. But I've got 2 pretty chunky power supplies in there, one for each row, and I was still having that problem. Next up, the fact that, at least on the Kosmo module, there's a resistor that will literally like burn itself out if left unattended and the value has to be changed is like kind of a significant oversight. I'm not sure if it's like been fixed in the most up-to-date versions. I'm guessing the Eurorack version is already, had that problem taken care of. So what I'm using in my personal rack is like an off-the-shelf guitar tuner that has a rotary selector switch that I can use to like look at all my different oscillators, and it offers better resolution and it uses almost nothing in the way of power. That being said, sometimes it's a little unclear which oscillator I'm actually tuning when I'm using my little rotary selector setup over there, so I can see why having like an always-on tuner on every oscillator would be really handy. But I would like to see a more efficient usage of the power and like compute. I think it would definitely be possible to have maybe a single controller that's like monitoring and displaying tuning for multiple oscillators at once. All right, let's move back to a cleaner filter and get some sync tones. Taking the square wave of the first one and plugging it into the sync input of the second one. Now when we detune the two, if we modulate the frequency of the thing that's being synced, that's fun, but let's put a little pink noise in there. So overall, I like this module a lot. I think it's like challenging other oscillator designers to like implement some of these amazing quality of life features. Like from a design perspective, it's really good. I just think like a really highly trained electrical engineer could probably refine this design even more. But I think that might have actually just been kind of Look Mum No Computer's goal here, is just like make something functional to like kind of show the market like, hey, we want an octave select. Hey, we want a tuner built in. Hey, we want like all the features in there, and we want all the jacks like out of the way and on the bottom instead of having them interspersed with the knobs like what a lot of Eurorack modules do. Like I can't stand that type of design. And having the trim pots on the front, this is good. This is the direction that the market needs to go. And once this type of thing gets refined a little more, I'll be there to shell out my however many dollars to get one. But until then, I'm going to be rolling my own solutions, jank though they may be. And even if this specific unit didn't make its way into my daily driver rack, it's influenced the way that I approach my own DIY synth. I think this is a worthwhile contribution to the market and could be a decent purchase. In fact, I think the basic kit is only like $40, although you do have to sort some additional parts, but that's, that's dead cheap. So yeah, consider it. This module is going into a special rack that I've built for a special purpose. All of my good functional modules that are not part of my daily driver rack are going to be put together into a skiff and donated to the Synth Library of Portland, and I'm pretty excited. So every synth needs an oscillator, and these are the oscillators that are going into the synth I'm going to be donating. So if you're interested in seeing all the things that I've created and modified that are going to go into that synth and then eventually donated at the end of the series, feel free to subscribe and you can follow along as the build goes on. So thank you, and I've been Wesley. Have a great day.